There comes a moment in every person's life when the mirror stops reflecting your face and starts reflecting your truth. A moment where excuses sound empty, blame feels heavy, and the only thing standing between who you are and who you want to be is your willingness to take responsibility. Today, I want to talk about that moment, the moment that changes everything. Accountability is often misunderstood. People think it means taking the blame, carrying guilt, or accepting defeat. But accountability, in its truest and purest form, is none of that. Accountability is freedom. It is the moment you realize that your life is not controlled by the people around you, the circumstances behind you, or the excuses within you. It is controlled by the decisions you make every single day. And once you understand that, you stop seeing responsibility as a burden and start seeing it as a privilege. When you take accountability for your actions, you take back the pen that writes your story. So many people go through life feeling powerless, waiting for luck, waiting for someone to save them, waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right motivation. But accountability flips the script. Instead of waiting, you start building. Instead of hoping, you start acting. Instead of saying, I can't, you begin saying, I will. You stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. The truth is, accountability feels uncomfortable at first because it forces you to confront your own habits, your own decisions, and your own patterns. It demands honesty, it demands self-awareness, it demands courage, but the discomfort is temporary and the transformation is permanent. When you take responsibility for your choices, you begin to see that you have far more control than you ever believed. You control your reactions. You control your discipline. You control how you show up each day. And suddenly, the world stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a playground because you operate from strength, not fear. Taking ownership also liberates you from the weight of excuses. Excuses might protect your ego, but they imprison your potential. They wrap you in a warm blanket of self-justification, but that blanket keeps you from stepping into the cold air of growth. When you stop making excuses, you open the door to possibilities you never imagined. You give yourself permission to try, to fail, and to rise again, because you understand that every outcome, good or bad, teaches you something about yourself. The most powerful part of accountability is that it shifts your mindset from victimhood to leadership. You stop waiting for things to happen and start creating them. You stop saying, I had no choice, and start saying, I chose differently. This is real freedom, the freedom to shape your own future. Accountability is not about the past, it is about owning the present so you can redesign the future. When you take responsibility for where you stand today, you gain the strength to decide where you'll stand tomorrow. That is the power of accountability. Excuses are one of the most subtle and dangerous barriers to personal growth. They disguise themselves as logic, as justification, as protection. They make you feel safe, comfortable, and temporarily relieved. But that relief comes at a cost. Every time you choose an excuse, you trade a small piece of your potential for a moment of comfort. And slowly, without realizing it, those small pieces add up, and you become a smaller version of who you could be. Excuses feel comfortable because they remove responsibility from your shoulders. If it wasn't your fault, then you didn't fail. If the circumstances weren't right, then you never had a real chance. If someone else caused the problem, then you don't need to change. Excuses protect your ego, but they imprison your growth. They create a world where nothing is your responsibility, but ironically, everything becomes out of your control. You can't change what you refuse to own. You can't improve what you refuse to acknowledge. And you can't grow if you keep justifying why you shouldn't. The truth is, excuses are not born from weakness. They are born from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort, fear of trying and discovering that you're not as ready, strong, or disciplined as you believed. But facing those fears is the only path to transformation. When you stop making excuses, you expose your raw potential, your unpolished strengths, your genuine ambition. You start working with what you have instead of hiding behind what you claim you lack. Excuses also shrink your world. They trap you inside a story where your limitations define your identity. If you say, I can't, your mind stops looking for solutions. If you say, I don't have time, your priorities never change. If you say, it's too hard, your effort never rises. Your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions shape your life. Excuses quietly build a ceiling over your head, a ceiling you created yourself. Removing excuses is uncomfortable because it forces you to admit that you could have done more, tried harder, or chosen differently. But that honesty is empowering. It gives you clarity about what needs to be fixed. It gives you direction about what matters. It gives you courage to step outside the prison of your limitations. When you stop hiding behind excuses, you take full command of your life. You discover a version of yourself that is capable, creative, resourceful, and resilient. You step into a mindset where challenges don't scare you, they motivate you. Excuses keep you small, accountability makes you unstoppable. Your life in every season and every moment is a reflection of the choices you make, whether those choices are intentional or unconscious, bold or timid, empowering or limiting. Many people look at their circumstances and believe that life just happens to them, as if success is luck and failure is destiny. But the truth is far simpler and far more liberating. Your life is shaped by the decisions you make every single day. Every action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every habit is a signal to your future about what you expect from yourself. When you wake up in the morning, your first choice is not just to get out of bed, it's to face the world with either discipline or delay. When you interact with others, you choose patience or frustration, kindness or resistance. When challenges arise, you choose whether to react with fear or respond with courage. Even doing nothing is a choice, one that leads to predictable results. The life you have today is the outcome of thousands of decisions made over years, some small, some life-changing, but all connected. The empowering part of this truth is that if your choices built the life you're living now, then your next choices can build the life you want to live next. You are not trapped, you are not stuck. You are simply standing at the doorway of your next decision. Change does not begin with a miracle, it begins with a single choice. One moment where you decide to be aware, to be responsible, to be intentional. When you understand that, you stop waiting for the perfect conditions and start creating them through your actions. Taking responsibility for your choices means acknowledging that results don't come from wishes, dreams, or hopes. They come from alignment between intention and action. You can't say you want success while choosing comfort. You can't say you want growth while choosing the same habits that hold you back. You can't say you want change while repeating the same behaviors. Life reflects what you choose consistently, not what you want occasionally. This concept becomes incredibly powerful when you realize that your decisions extend beyond your actions. They shape your character. The choices you make about integrity, effort, discipline, resilience, and honesty determine the kind of person you become. And the person you become determines the kind of life you create. Your choices ripple outward, affecting your mindset, your opportunities, your relationships, your reputation, and your future. When you embrace the truth that your life mirrors your decisions, you reclaim a level of control you may not have realized you had. You stop blaming circumstances and start evaluating choices. You stop waiting for luck and start relying on consistency. You stop hoping for change and start building it. And it is in that moment, when you truly understand the power of your choices, that your life begins to transform from the inside out. Character is not built in a moment of success. It is revealed in the moments when accountability is required. Anyone can look strong when everything is going right, but real strength is measured when you are faced with a situation where you must own your actions, especially when doing so is difficult, uncomfortable, or humbling. Accountability shapes you, molds you, and sharpens you into someone others can trust, follow, and respect. It becomes the invisible armor that protects your integrity and the silent force that strengthens your identity. When you choose to take responsibility, even when it's painful, you communicate something powerful about who you are. You say, I am not afraid of my imperfections. I am not running from my mistakes. I am strong enough to face them and learn from them. People respect that. They can feel the authenticity behind your actions. In a world filled with individuals who point fingers and shift blame, the person who steps forward and owns the truth stands out as a leader, even without a title. Accountability builds consistency. It teaches you to act in alignment with your values rather than your emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively, blame is one of the easiest actions a human being can take. It requires no effort, no reflection, no courage. It simply shifts the responsibility onto someone else and temporarily frees you from discomfort. But the moment you choose blame, you delay your growth, you delay your learning, you delay your transformation. Every challenge in life comes with a lesson hidden beneath the surface, but you can only access that lesson when you take ownership of your role in it. Blame closes the door, accountability opens it. When something goes wrong, the natural instinct is to look outward toward the people, circumstances, or conditions that might have contributed to the outcome. This outward focus allows you to escape the emotional weight of admitting your own part. But while blame may comfort your ego, it paralyzes your progress. It robs you of the opportunity to learn something valuable about yourself. If you keep pointing at others, you never get to discover the habits, choices, or behaviors that need improvement. You stay stuck in the same cycle, repeating the same patterns, because you keep postponing the lesson you were meant to learn. Ownership, on the other hand, accelerates growth. It takes you straight to the heart of the message the moment it happens. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You begin to ask, what can I take from this? That small shift in perspective transforms everything. You stop seeing problems as punishments and start seeing them as teachers. Mistakes become feedback, failures become insights, pain becomes guidance. Every experience becomes meaningful because you are willing to extract wisdom from it. The power of ownership is that it prevents you from accountability is not an event, it is a lifestyle. It is not something you practice only when things collapse or when someone calls you out. It is a daily commitment, a continuous mindset that shapes how you think, act, respond, and grow. Real accountability shows up in the small moments long before it is tested in the big ones. It is built in the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching, when no one will praise you, and when no one will know the difference except. Those small decisions accumulate, and over time they form a standard you begin to live by. Every morning you wake up with a choice. Will you live today guided by discipline or by convenience? Because accountability thrives in discipline. It shows up when you choose to finish what you start, even when you're tired. It appears when you keep your promises, even when breaking them would be easier. It grows when you do the uncomfortable things simply because they are the right things. When you consistently hold yourself to a higher standard, you stop waiting for others to push you. Your own integrity becomes your motivation. A lifestyle of accountability means you stop using circumstances as permission to abandon your commitments. Anyone can be responsible when life is smooth, but true accountability is measured during chaos, stress, and pressure. It's choosing patience when frustration rises, honesty when lies would protect you, effort when excuses tempt you, and courage when fear whispers that you're not ready. It is in these moments that you prove to yourself who you really are. Accountability becomes the anchor that keeps you steady when everything else feels uncertain. When accountability becomes part of your identity, you no longer rely on temporary bursts of motivation. You rely on standards, you rely on consistency, you rely on the person you have trained yourself to be. This is where real transformation begins, not in sudden decisions, but in repeated actions. Every day, every choice, every effort slowly shapes the structure of your character. You no longer hope to be dependable, you become dependable. You no longer try to be disciplined, you embody discipline. People around you begin to feel the difference. They trust your words because they've seen your actions. They respect your decisions because you stand by them. They follow your example because you live by principles, not impulses. And most importantly, you begin to trust yourself. Your confidence grows, not from achievements, but from the consistency of your actions. When accountability becomes your lifestyle, success stops being a dream and becomes a predictable outcome, a natural result of who you are, not just what you do. Accountability is the foundation on which every meaningful life is built. When you choose to take responsibility for your actions, you choose to live with clarity, intention, and purpose. You stop drifting through life and start directing it. You stop depending on circumstances and start creating the conditions that lead to your growth. Accountability transforms the way you see your challenges because suddenly every obstacle becomes a chance to rise higher, learn deeper, and understand yourself better. It is the moment you stop surviving and start evolving. As you embrace accountability, you begin to realize the immense control you truly have over your life. Your choices shape your reality. Your decisions shape your identity. With every act of ownership, you strengthen your confidence, your discipline, and your credibility. You stop relying on excuses and begin relying on your own effort and integrity. Bit by bit, you remove the limitations you once placed on yourself and step into a version of yourself you didn't know was possible. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but each intentional decision pushes you closer to the life you deserve. In the journey of growth, blame becomes your greatest enemy because it blinds you to the lessons behind your mistakes. When you let go of blame and take ownership, you unlock a level of wisdom that shortcuts years of struggle. The moment you say, "This is on me, and I will learn from it," you accelerate your progress. Accountability gives you the courage to face your truth without fear because you understand that truth is the doorway to transformation. Every failure becomes a teacher, every misstep becomes guidance, and every setback becomes a stepping stone. Accountability is not something you do once, it's something you become. It is a lifestyle built on honesty, discipline, and consistency. It becomes part of your identity, the silent code you live by, even when no one is watching. When accountability becomes who you are, success stops being unpredictable. It becomes a natural consequence of your character. And in that moment, your life shifts from uncertainty to direction, from reaction to intention, and from excuses to unstoppable growth. You don't just live life, you lead it. Thank you so much for watching this powerful message. I hope today's words reminded you of the strength that already lives within you, the strength to choose, to grow, and to take responsibility for your journey. Remember, accountability is not pressure, it is power. And the moment you embrace it, your life begins to change. If this message inspired you, make sure to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Stay committed, stay accountable, and keep rising. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.